Wyatt Harper, 17, stood before the crooked wooden gate of the Carver farm under the dim gray Ohio afternoon. The late autumn wind slipped through his thin jacket, carrying the smell of damp soil and rotting grass. He'd heard plenty of rumors about the Carver family since moving to this tiny rural town, but Caleb, his classmate, who always smiled with tired eyes, had insisted that Wyatt come for Thanksgiving, so he wouldn't be lonely. The house appeared behind a row of bare trees, an old, dark farmhouse with no lights except for a few flickering candles set along the steps. The tin roof was rusted, the windows boarded with plywood, and far in the back was a pig pen where some thick, nauseating smell seeped into the wind. Caleb opened the door for him. "My family doesn't use electricity," he said, like warning him. "My dad believes in tradition." Inside, candlelight splashed across patchy wooden walls. Everyone in the house, Caleb's mother, his little sister, and a hunched old uncle, wore white mourning clothes, standing silently, as if waiting for a ritual to begin. Wyatt forced a smile. "Is this a family custom?" Caleb didn't answer at once. He swallowed, then whispered, "Just do what my dad says. Don't ask." At the end of the long dining table, Amos Carver appeared tall, thin, a face carved by knives, eyes without warmth. In his hand was a candle. Behind him, mounted neatly on the wall, was a set of blades, polished to a mirror shine. He didn't smile, but Wyatt felt something smiling behind those eyes. "Kneel," Amos said, voice rough and solid. "Today we thank the Lord, for he has granted us flesh." Wyatt looked at Caleb, confused. Caleb only gave a tiny shake of his head, lips trembling. Wyatt knelt with the rest of the family, his knees touching the cold wooden floor. From that moment, he understood that Thanksgiving at the Carver house wasn't like any Thanksgiving he'd ever known. Wyatt knelt on the freezing floor until his legs went numb, hands resting on his thighs like everyone else. Candlelight flickered, throwing long, jittering shadows on the walls, making the room feel like it was breathing slowly, weakly. Amos walked around the table, each step heavy, each heel thudding against the floor in a dull rhythm. 40 minutes, he said, voice dragging like something scraping wood. No moving, no speaking. Anyone who breaks protocol will be corrected. No one asked what corrected meant. They apparently already knew. Wyatt tried to keep his back straight. The smell of roasted turkey mingled with hot fat rising from the table made his stomach clench painfully. He hadn't eaten all day, thinking he'd be having a warm Thanksgiving meal with a new friend. The first mistake of this day? Time crawled. The room was dead silent, except for the trembling breaths of Caleb's little sister and the faint clink of metal whenever Amos adjusted the knives behind him. The smell of meat, spices, burning candles, all mixed into a punch, straight to Wyatt's empty stomach. By minute 35, Wyatt's legs were tingling violently, and his vision swam. He glanced at Caleb. Caleb kept his head bowed, lips pressed tight, as if praying for something unspeakable. Wyatt swallowed. Just a second. Just 1 second standing up. Surely it wouldn't hurt. Amos suddenly stopped behind him, as if reading his mind. "Your legs are shaking," he said softly, but sharp as a carpet knife. Wyatt flinched. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize," Amos said. "Give thanks." He moved on, didn't look back. Finally, like some twisted mercy from God, Amos said, "Enough." Everyone rose at once, none daring to breathe loudly. Wyatt almost collapsed when he stood, his legs dead and useless. Amos sat at the head of the table and gestured, "Eat." But the family remained still. No one moved. No one touched a utensil. Wyatt looked around, baffled. Caleb gave another tiny shake of his head, a warning. But the turkey's smell was overwhelming. The golden, crispy skin, the steam rising, the gravy sliding down the plate, it all seemed to reach out to him. Wyatt's stomach growled so loudly that he heard it himself. No one commented, but Amos smiled. a rare, cold smile that crawled up Wyatt's spine. Wyatt swallowed. Why wasn't anyone eating? Were they waiting for a prayer? Waiting for Amos to start? Was this some odd tradition? His stomach betrayed him again. And then, in a small, stupid reflex of a 17-year-old, Wyatt reached for a fork and took a steaming piece of turkey. Caleb shot up. "Wyatt, don't!" Too late. The meat had barely lifted from the platter when Amos rose, his smile widening like it might split his face. "Clever," he whispered. "The Lord has chosen you." Wyatt didn't understand those words until Amos reached under the table. A roar exploded, an engine bursting to life, shaking the wood. A handheld chainsaw, its blade polished like glass, flared under candlelight. Wyatt froze. Caleb whispered in despair, "You were supposed to let my dad take the first bite." The table went dead silent, and the worst part of that Thanksgiving was only beginning. The chainsaw roared like a beast waking, vibrating through the candlelit room. The spinning teeth flashed silver in Amos's eyes like tiny dancing lights. Wyatt pushed his chair back instinctively, but his legs were still numb. He only managed to brace himself against the table. Amos lunged without hesitation. "You are chosen for offering," he said, voice shaking with sick excitement. Wyatt screamed, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." But the scream was swallowed by the shriek of the blade, scraping the table's edge as Amos slammed it down. Caleb tackled his father's arm. "Stop, Dad. I invited him. If someone should be punished, punish me." Wyatt barely processed the words before Amos grabbed his left hand and slammed it palm down on the table, spreading his fingers like they were meant for sacrifice. "The Lord grants flesh," Amos muttered, eyes wide, "and today he receives it back." Wyatt jerked hard, but Amos's grip was iron. Caleb's sister cried while their mother covered her mouth. The old uncle trembled as if he'd collapse. Then, zzz. The blade touched skin. The first sensation was heat, then cold. Then a burst of white agony, like the world imploding. Wyatt screamed a strangled cry, but the chainsaw drowned it out. Blood sprayed the wall, Amos's face, even the white mourning cloth he wore like ceremonial robes. The blade cut through bone in under 2 seconds, the smell of burnt flesh filling the room. Thud. Wyatt's severed hand hit the table and rolled against the turkey platter like a grotesque side dish. Caleb shouted, "Dad, stop!" He threw himself at Amos, grabbing his neck, but Amos twisted, impossibly strong for his thin frame, flinging Caleb onto the floor. "You dare defy me?" His voice dropped, deep and lethal. Wyatt clutched the spurting stump, collapsing as his vision blurred. Caleb got to his knees, eyes wet and desperate. "If someone must suffer, then let it be me, please." To Amos, those words sounded like an insult. He set the chainsaw down, still running, and reached for a massive steel sledgehammer, old but brutally heavy. Caleb didn't get the chance to run. Amos raised the hammer high, mouth twisting into a warped grin. A child who disobeys his father must learn to kneel. Crack. The sound of bone shattering was sickening, like smashing a melon. Caleb screamed, clutching his left knee twisted at a grotesque angle. Amos didn't stop. Crack. The right knee. This time the scream had no air behind it, only raw, silent agony as Caleb collapsed, his legs no longer resembling human limbs. Wyatt crawled forward, stump spraying blood. "Stop! You'll kill him!" Amos turned toward Wyatt, eyes burning with holy mania. "No, not yet. The offering has only begun." He picked up the chainsaw again. It screamed to life a promise that Thanksgiving at the Carver house was far from over. The house dissolved into chaos. Screams, crackling engines, hammer strikes. Now only Wyatt's ragged breathing and Caleb's broken whimpers echoed through the room. Wyatt was fading. Each heartbeat pumped blood from his stump like a hammer strike to the skull. He dragged himself toward the wall. "Caleb, I'll get help." "Go," Caleb gasped. "Run, Wyatt, run!" But Wyatt couldn't run, and Amos would never allow it. Amos yanked Wyatt's collar and dragged him like a weightless sack. Wyatt screamed when his stump scraped the floor, vision flashing white-hot. "It's time you understand why we thank the Lord with flesh," Amos murmured, voice steady like prayer. Caleb's mother and sister pressed against the wall, powerless. They trembled, but did nothing. No carver ever resisted. Amos kicked open the back door. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of manure, mud, and something sweeter, rotten. Wyatt recognized it instantly, the smell of a corpse. Amos dragged him across the yard to an old pig pen hidden behind dried corn stalks. Candlelight from the house barely reached, but it was enough for Wyatt to see dark stains layered thick on the door. Blood, old and new. Amos lifted the latch. "You will spend the night here, reflecting on your sin." "Please," Wyatt panted. "Please don't." Amos didn't listen, or didn't care. He shoved Wyatt inside. Wyatt fell onto damp dirt, his shoulder hitting something soft. Not straw. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he saw tangled, dirty hair, a small shoulder, a face no longer whole, skin discolored, sunken, gnawed. The girl who went missing last year, the one whose posters still hung around town. Wyatt retched. The pen stank so badly he could hardly breathe. Amos closed the door, the metal bar clanging shut. "She also ate before I allowed it," he said calmly. "Now you two can pray together." Wyatt scrambled to the door, slamming it with his good hand. "Let me out! I'm bleeding, I'll die!" Amos didn't answer. Footsteps faded. Then the chainsaw roared again right outside in the yard. "The Lord favors the prayers of those who fear," Amos shouted for the whole family to hear. Wyatt lay on the dirt, the corpse beside him like a silent warning. Something wet dripped from above. Drip, drip, drip. Not rain. His own blood.